Just want to make a quick announcement to everybody that's online. We will be starting the presentation at about 6:15. So those of you that aren't here, we'll be starting right around 6:15. Thank you. Well, good evening, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. For those of you that are here, especially if you got some little kiddos with you, don't be shy. If you need to get up and go get some more food, please do. Or there's obviously some drinks over there. If anyone needs a drink, you're not going to bug me at all. So we sure appreciate everybody coming out, and we sure appreciate everybody bringing their families out here tonight. And it's my hope, whether you're an officer, a family member, a friend, an acquaintance, or one of the folks that got behind the effort for the bike ride to help raise funds for these vests, our hope is tonight that all of you leave here feeling blessed. And I can tell you, it's going to be a good night. And so I know I didn't get to shake a lot of your hands. My name is Jake Skifstead. I'm the founder and president of Shield616. And I really, really do appreciate you coming out here tonight in a huge show of support for your law enforcement. What tonight's going to look like, I'm just going to share a few words, explain who we are, why we do this, why we're all here together. And then obviously tonight is about your men and women that put on that uniform every single day. It's about them, and we want to honor them. And then we'll get you guys all back out there before your city's in chaos. So the number one question that I get asked, and I know quite a few of you have heard my story already, so just bear with me. So for those of you that haven't heard what Shield616 is, why we do this, the number one question that I get asked is, why do you donate rifle-rated armor? And my story goes back quite a ways. I was a police officer in Colorado Springs, Colorado, for just under 14 years. And why we specifically do this is because I was involved in two different active shooters. The first one was called the New Life Church active shooter back in 2007, and then the second one was called the Planned Parenthood active shooter on Black Friday 2015. And in both of those situations, they were true active shooters. We went up against guys whose only intent that day was to kill as many people as they could, and they didn't care who. And both of them were armed with rifles. And it was in the New Life Church shooting. I was never in harm's way in this shooting, but one of the things that really affected me that day was I had to guard the deceased suspect's body. So for hours, I had a chance to look at this individual and see what he chose to wear, and I had a chance to see all the supplies that he chose to bring, and it was very obvious that his intent that day was mass casualty. And then laying next to him was an AR-15. And I stood there in that hallway that day and just kept asking myself, how am I, the Colorado Springs Police Department, supposed to protect my community from whatever threat might come their way? But if it involves a rifle, I have no protection against that. And so obviously that affected me. And I ended up going out and doing what a lot of first responders have to do, is spend their own money. And sometimes they have to spend their money just to get any kind of a vest. But I ended up going out and spending some money trying to find some specific rifle-rated armor. And if you know anything about Colorado Springs, we're a very big military town. And so I actually found some rifle plates from a retiring Army sergeant off of Craigslist. And so first of all, I was hoping they weren't stolen. And second of all, I was hoping that they were still good. But at least I had something. And literally I had a second vest that I would keep in the trunk of my squad car, that I would have to stop my car, go out and put that on over everything that I'm already wearing, if I even had the time to do that. But at least I had the ability to get to something if a situation would warrant it, and I had the knowledge beforehand that I was going to need it. And then fast forward, like I said, the second active shooter I was involved in was called the Planned Parenthood active shooter on Black Friday 2015. And I'll tell you guys, that day was the most terrifying day of my life. And that week, actually just this past week, was the anniversary. And I'm from Minnesota, so if I sound funny, that's why. But I had family in town from Minnesota for the Thanksgiving week, and I had the week off. And I had a really good Thanksgiving with my family, and I didn't have to do anything. Didn't have to go to work, didn't have to respond to any call-outs if there were any, and just really had a chance to enjoy my family. And we were doing that. And we had a great Thanksgiving, and the next morning, we were sitting on the couch hanging out with our kids, and me and my brother were hanging out with our kiddos, and our wives were out doing the shopping thing, and my SWAT pager went off. And I got up off the couch, and I started to walk over to the counter, the kitchen counter where my work phone was, and I just wanted to see what was going on. And I started to tell my brother, man, these guys are going to be mad. It was, kind of a holiday, and it was actually snowing very heavily that day. And so I was telling them, man, it's going to be cold. It's miserable to get called out in the snow. And so we were just kind of laughing. And I walked over to my phone, and I picked up my phone, and I just froze. And I reread it, and I just couldn't believe what it said. And it said, active shooter at Planned Parenthood with multiple officers down. And I just thought to myself for a second, I don't have anything here. I didn't have any of my police equipment, my car. I had nothing. not even a police radio to turn on to hear what was happening. And so I just made the decision, you know what, if this is what's happening, I'm going to respond and help out with whatever I could. And so I had to drive to the police department as fast as I could in my own vehicle, and got there. And I tell you, I wanted to turn on that radio. I wanted to hear what was happening. And when I got there and got all my stuff and got in my car, I was just expecting this to be over with. And I got in my car and I turned to the right radio frequency that this was going to be happening on. And I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. And it was basically, you could hear officers basically yelling into the radio, and you could still hear the full automatic gunfire in the background. And, you know, to have an active shooter still shooting with a full automatic rifle, you know, this had probably still been at least 20 minutes, you know, just thinking, man, how many casualties are we going to have? And I could literally stand here and talk to you for hours about this situation. And if you know anything about it, this wasn't a typical active shooter. This was a very long, prolonged situation. And I'll tell you, that morning, going down there, I got to listen to the highest level of bravery and heroism I've ever heard by those patrol officers. Those men and women were doing exactly what they were trained. They were trying to get to that threat, trying to stop that situation, all the while knowing that they were going up against a threat that they had no protection against. And just listening to them, there's no doubt that morning that they saved lives, because this shooter was now focused on them and was no longer going in room by room trying to find people to harm. And so I just knew, just listening to the radio traffic, just knowing where this building was, that it was actually going to take the tactical unit to deal with this situation. And unfortunately, the officers that were hit, it was because they were having to go into wide open spaces to access this building. It was surrounded by very large parking lots that were vacant because it was Black Friday. And so they just couldn't get into that building without this guy seeing them. And unfortunately, he was pretty accurate with his shot. And so with us getting down there with the tactical unit, you know, that day we had to do quite a few things that, you know, we've never trained for. And as you can all imagine, in those situations, you try and prepare for them as much as you can, but I'll tell you, it is absolute chaos when they happen. And for us that day, we ended up we actually used our armored vehicles, and we actually drove them literally into the building. That's how we forced our way into this building. And I'll tell you, being in a building, knowing that there's a gunman in there, it's a horrible, horrible feeling. And I want to tell everybody that's here today that's not wearing a uniform, I want to tell you, when you take away that uniform, you take away that vest and all that equipment we wear and that badge and that authority, we're just like every single one of you guys. We have the same stresses, the same concerns, the same concerns. We have families at home that we're trying to go home to, but we just train ourselves to go against human nature and to go towards that threat. But I'll tell you guys, it's hard. And I'll tell you, that day, being in that building, that tension was already high just by entering it, but every single doorway that we had to go through, every single corner that we had to go around, it just kept going up and up, because we knew at some point we were going to confront this guy. But we had no idea where this guy was in this building, and that's a horrible feeling. And so that's what happened. Hours later, as we were searching this building, we came around the corner, and at the end of that hallway is where the suspect was, in a side room. And all he did was stuck the gun out of the doorway, and he fully unloaded on us. And there was a huge exchange of gunfire, and he ended up falling back into the room, and unfortunately one of our officers was hit and was very seriously wounded. And in this big shuffle, I ended up coming in and ended up being the front guy now, because I had one of our rifle handheld shields. And everyone had gotten behind me and was dealing with that officer. And I'll tell you, I just want to share one story with you as I knelt behind this shield. Two things dawned on me as I knelt there. The first thing that dawned on me was the true reality of the situation. For that one quick little moment, I realized where I was and what was happening. And I'll tell you, I actually said this out loud. I said, man, this really sucks. Because I realized that morning I didn't have to respond to that page. I didn't have to be there. And I will tell you, when I responded, I did not expect to be an active shooter. I was going down there for moral support or however I could help out with. And now here I was, the front guy hiding behind a shield, getting ready to force our way down a hallway. And the second thing I want to share with you guys was just the full reality of law enforcement. When these men and women put on this uniform every single day, it's one of the things that I loved about law enforcement was you didn't know what you were going to do that day. But that's also the most terrifying thing about law enforcement, is because you don't know what you're going to do that day. And as we all know, sometimes the community can behave and the officers can have a decent day. But as we all know, that pendulum can swing, and it can get busy, it can get violent. And I'll tell you, that morning, it just seemed like it was nothing but sheer evil, violence, death, and destruction in that building. And I will tell you guys, I was terrified. Even being part of a SWAT team, as part of 2 SWAT teams that were in there. Absolutely terrified. That gunfire was terrifying. And if you know me, I'm a man of faith. I didn't know what else to do in that moment, hiding behind that shield, other than to start praying. And I'll tell you, that morning, my prayer was different. It was a prayer that I don't ever remember saying on duty. I started to pray for my family. Because at that moment, we now had 5 officers had been shot. Officer Garrett Swayze had been killed. And I truly thought that I might be the next one shot. And I'll tell you, during that prayer, I just had a moment of peace about me. And I want to share something with all of you, especially our men and women in blue. About a month or 2 after the shooting, I was in God's Word. And one of the cool things that we're giving all of you guys here today is not only vests, but an even higher level of protection, God's Word, a Thin Blue Line Bible. I was in God's Word, and I read 3 verses, and it immediately took me back to that moment that I was kneeling behind the shield, terrified out of my mind, having this moment of peace that didn't make much sense. And I want to read for all of you here today those 3 verses, and I want to challenge our officers with these 3 verses. I would like to read for you guys Philippians 4:4-7. It says this: "Rejoice in the Lord always. I say it again, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation," not some, not most, not this or that, but you guys, in every situation that you find yourself in, including an active shooter, "by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." And I want to tell you guys, that morning, I didn't know it at that time, but I got to experience a transcending peace. There's no doubt in my mind that the Lord was with me. And I want to challenge all of you here today, whether you're wearing a uniform or not. There's a better protection. Angel armor, I'll tell you guys, is the best stuff that's out there. And we're honored that you're getting that best stuff, the best protection. But I want to tell you, there's a better protection, a better peace, a better hope. And that was also given as a free gift that took an ultimate sacrifice by Jesus Christ on a cross. And I want you to know you can have that free gift of salvation. You can have it before you go on your next call. You can have it before you go out these doors. And I want you to consider your reality that you're in, because none of us are guaranteed another breath. And I want to tell you, you might be having your darkest moment and yet having a moment of peace, because you know internally everything is going to be okay. And if that would be on your heart, please come find me. I would love to talk to you about that. Whether you're an officer or not, consider it. This life is fragile. And as I knelt there behind that shield, unbeknownst to me, the whole team actually, Planned Parenthood actually called in and gave the dispatch the login information for the video surveillance. And one of the troopers that was on scene in the mobile command started going into that system in the security cameras. And he told me a couple years after the shooting, I don't know what took him so long, but the first camera that he looked at, he saw me kneeling behind this shield in this side hallway. And I actually shared the story with him of what I just shared with you guys. That internal struggle that I was having in that moment, and in one of the scariest moments I was ever in. But thankfully, as he started to search those cameras, he found the suspect. And that suspect, after that engagement with a couple of our guys, at this moment, we didn't know if he was hit, because they were shooting him partially through a wall. We didn't know if he was wounded, hit, alive. We had no idea. But thankfully, this trooper found him, and he was in that side hall. He was in another hallway just outside that room. And he was behind 2 closed doors with his rifle, just going back and forth, waiting for someone to come through those doors. And to collapse down about a 5-hour-long story of why this took us so long. Basically, we collapsed down on the outside of those 2 doors. We barricaded them in that hallway, and we let the other team go through the whole building silently, quietly, barely moving, going in and checking every single room, under tablecloths, in closets, behind curtains, pulling all the people that were still in there sheltering in place. And we got to a point where the whole building was cleared except for 2 rooms. And in those 2 rooms is where this guy was standing. And in those rooms, we knew we had people in there. And so we knew this was going to be a very a hard engagement with this guy, with people very close to him. And so we ended up getting to a point where we were ready. We felt comfortable with our plan, and just to be honest with you guys, we were going to ambush this guy. We were going to end it. And everything was lined up. I'm not going to go into all the details. I don't have the time here tonight. But basically, we were going to ambush this guy, and we were actually going to drive the armored vehicle back into the building, and they were basically going to make their own hallway with this vehicle until they got into that hallway where the suspect was. And I'll tell you, when you drive an armored vehicle into a building, it makes a lot of damage. It does a lot of damage. It makes a lot of noise. And that is something that is ingrained in my memory of looking down this hallway and watching an armored vehicle go down the building and literally listening to it drive through all the walls until they got to their point when they were ready. And we were just waiting for a green light to go. We were going to, again, we were going to ambush this guy, and that armored vehicle was going to drive into the hallway with the guy. And I think the armored vehicle might have sped up his thought process, and it definitely probably changed his thought process. Because shortly after they got to one wall away from where he was, he yelled, "Okay, you guys win, I give up." Could barely hear him. From all the gunfire and everything, we could hardly hear. And when you, like I said, when you have an armored vehicle in a building, it's loud. And so we had to get that thing out of there. But we just started to communicate with this guy, and at least thought, hey, at least this is an opportunity. We didn't think he was giving up, but at least we can start dialoguing with him a little bit and just see if we can do something to maybe get him away from that hallway to where those rooms with those ladies in there. Maybe we can at least get him away from there and do something else. And so we got to a point where we gave him a command to come to us, and the trooper confirmed, okay, he put the gun down and he's coming towards you. And I'll tell you, it seemed like an eternity for that guy to come down that hallway. And I will tell you that silence was deafening. I mean, it was literally this. To go from gunfire and armored vehicles and flashbangs to dead silence, I don't know how to explain it, but it was unbelievably loud, and it was terrifying to not know what this guy was doing coming down this hallway. But then you could hear his footsteps coming. And then I finally got to see him as he came around that corner and stood in that doorway. And I remember just looking at him for the first time thinking, my gosh, here's this shooter that has caused all this death, this evil and destruction. How could you get to this point? And I'll tell you guys, we were really concerned about explosives. This guy actually tried, he brought his own explosives. He actually tried blowing us up while we were on scene. And so we were going to make him take his clothes off before he was going to come any closer to us. We were concerned about explosives, and we were going through that process, and he took his t-shirt off, and his whole torso was duct tape. And I tell you, to see that and to think, my gosh, this guy's got an explosive. Just a horrible, horrible feeling. And thankfully, we had our K9 guys in there now, and they just started to challenge him. What are you wearing? What is the duct tape on your chest? And he kept saying, body armor. And they're like, no, what is the duct tape? What are you wearing? And he just kept saying body armor. And we got to a point where, and I don't know how they made this decision where they said, if this is an explosive, this is okay, whatever. But they got to a point where they felt comfortable enough to have him take it off. And he took it off, and we ended up bringing him to us. And I'll tell you, officers, those were the loudest clicking handcuffs I've ever heard in my life. I don't know who it was, but they had never cleaned those things, oiled those things. They were so loud. It was a beautiful sound, I'll tell you. And to look up at a guy, to look up at a shooter, and to say, is there anyone else in here with you? And he says, there shouldn't be. And I said, that's a yes or no question. Are you alone? And he wouldn't answer it. And so it took us a long time to go back down that last hallway. Again, concerned about booby traps, but also just concerned about explosives. Just to kind of give you booby traps, but concerned about a second shooter, I meant to say. Just to give you just a little bit of insight of how much rounds this guy was shooting in this building. In that one exchange of gunfire that we had with him in this situation, in that hallway, the FBI's got a pretty cool system. When they come in, they can shine a laser through a bullet hole, and that laser can account for one bullet, multiple bullet holes, obviously in different walls. And I remember when we got to walk back in that hallway, seeing bullet hole 1,000 something, just to show you just the sheer volume. And we truly thought we might have had more than one shooter, just the sheer volume of bullets that were coming through those walls. And so it took us a really long time to get back down to those last 2 rooms, but we finally got there. They finally got those gals out of there, and I'll tell you, the situation was over with. And I'll tell you, it affects you. It affects you. It affects you as an officer. It affected our whole community. And I'll tell you, that was just a horrible, horrible situation to be in, but that is the reality of the world we live in. And that's why these men and women are your hometown heroes. Their willingness to go towards that threat and to protect each and every single one of you. And just to tell you, obviously our bomb team had to deal with a lot of stuff in that building, including that vest. We later found out that this vest, and Andy, I'm telling you, you're getting better vest than what he was wearing. There's no duct tape up here. This vest he was wearing was probably the heaviest vest in the history of vests and the most expensive vest. It was duct taped, overlapping silver dollars. His whole vest, front, back, sides. I can't imagine how much that thing weighed or cost. But I'll tell you, it was effective because that one time we exchanged gunfire with them, it worked. And so I guess it worked. I don't recommend it, but anyway, it was just very interesting to see something like that. And so I'll tell you, that situation, I'll tell you, it just drove home a sense of urgency for us with Shield616. To the reality of these men and women need this protection. They need this support here today, right now. You know, we've had officers having to leave right now. Who knows what they're going out on. And I'll tell you more than that, not only do they need this protection, but they need every single one of you. Just a show and a word of support. I'll tell you, this job has always been hard. It's always been dangerous. And as you can imagine, a lot of times it's a thankless job. And you can really get a jagged view of your community with what you have to do day in and day out. And for you to come out here and say, you know, we do support you, we do love you, we do appreciate you, that is a message that needs to get out there and can never be overstated. And so for all of you that are out here today, thank you for coming out here and showing that support for your officers. And so I spoke long enough. I mean, I'm making the kids cry, for Pete's sake. So let's get you officers up here. We're going to get a cool picture here. For the rest of you, hold off any rounds of applause. We can do that later. But officers, we want you to come stand behind your vest. It's A to Z. Z's down here. So if you don't mind, come up here real quick. Please stand behind your vest. And I'm going to walk around front. We'll give them a minute. Come on up. Just go shoulder to shoulder. I know some of the guys had to leave, but we're going to have to jam you guys and gals in here. So, yep. Robertson's right here. Marston right here. Kobe. Yep. And I'll get my ugly mug out of your way here. I see a lot of cameras coming out here. What we would love to do real quick, before I have you guys take a picture, I love doing one of these things, and you know, I know you probably know a lot. You might know a lot of these officers, or you might not know a single one. So I thought we'd love just to give these guys a chance to put a name with the face, or the face with the name. But one of the other things we love doing is just having them say where they're from. We've been doing this for the last couple of years now. It's just kind of fun to see where your officers have come, whether it's from here or from somewhere else. And so what we're going to do real quick, officers, I'm just going to have you say your name, years of experience, and where you are from. Those 3 things. No thank yous, no life stories. You can do that later, okay? So if you need to write this on your hand, do it now. Your name, years of experience, and where you're from. And if you don't mind starting down here and passing down the mic for me, please.
I hate mics. I'm Curtis Baumgartner. I've been a police officer just shy of 9 years, and I'm from Cortez, Colorado.
I'm Jacob Borden. I've been a police officer about a year and a half, and I was born and raised in Durango.
Andy Brock, police officer for 29 years, and I'm from California, but I'm claiming Cortez.
I'm Kristen Cannon. I've been a police officer for 6 years, and I'm from Cleveland, Ohio.
I'm Vance Carver. I've been a police officer for about 4 years, and I'm from Cortez.
Shane Fletcher, almost 7 years. Born in Cortez, raised on the Front Range in Peyton.
Jason Giacchino, almost 3 years, Denver, Colorado.
Shannon Jennings. I actually graduate December 15th, Cortez, Colorado.
Taylor Marston, been an officer about 6 months, and here from Cortez. Angelo Martinez, 20 years, and I'm from Cortez.
I'm Rogelio Maynard, been here for 9 years, and I'm from Killeen, Texas.
I am Charles Osborne, 4 years, and pretty much from the area.
Tom Quinnett. I'm originally from California, but I made my home here 29 years.
Mike Rivas, from here, about 3 years.
Trevor Robertson, been here 3 years with the police department, and I'm from Moab, Utah.
Carla Ross, law enforcement, 15 years, and I was born in Los Angeles, California.
Jerry Sam, got 23 years, from Cortez.
Caden Sharp, I've been with the PD for 3 years, and I'm from Cortez.
I'm Tyler Smith, been with the PD for 4 years, and I'm from Durango.
Brady Veach, been with the PD for 3 years, Cortez.
Buck Woodman, 26 years, law enforcement, and grew up in Mancus.
Joe Yan, celebrating my 5th year this month, and originally from California, but this is home.
Well, I love hearing the years of experience. And before we ever take a picture, I love hearing that part. We've done a lot of training academies where, you know, they're in the training academy. They haven't graduated yet. And is that my sign? Kelly, are you done with me? There we go. All right. Maybe I didn't move around enough. So, man, is my eyes going? It's fine. We'll get you out of here. Officers, if it goes black, turn your flashlights on. But we actually had a guy, it was his 56th year in law enforcement, and he was still driving a Ford Crown Victoria. Some of you might not even know what a Ford Crown Victoria is. But I was like, my gosh, to be out there still pushing a squad car at that age, that is phenomenal. So officers, we appreciate your years of service. Well, to the community that's here, like I said, whether you're family, friends, donors, servants, whatever. We were down in Dallas doing a vest presentation with the Dallas Police Department, and we were at a very large church. And that lieutenant got up there and he said something that's always stuck with me, and we love to do it at all of our presentations. He got up there and he said, "Church, I selected these officers standing behind me today because they work in one of the most dangerous areas in Dallas. And they don't get to experience people who appreciate the service that they're providing. They don't get to deal with people who are happy and know the sacrifice that these guys are making." And he pointed to that church and he said, "Church, I really need for my officers to experience your love for them this morning." And they gave them a big round of applause. And so I think it's only appropriate to the greater Cortez area. Let's give your officers a big round of applause for what they do. All right. Well, now we're going to take that picture that everyone's been trying to get. I'll get my face out of the way. Officers, this is not a mug shot, so please smile, okay? So if we could do me a favor, maybe starting with you, if all of you can kind of face this way a little bit, blade in, and then all of you this way, blade in this way if you don't mind. So there we go. Yep, just look at the person. Yeah, that looks a lot better. Kelly, how are they looking? You're back there. They looking okay? All right. So officers, what we want you to do, I just want you to look straight forward. Just look right over here. And if you want to get a phone, if you want to get up, get a good picture, go back there or wherever, feel free to do that. For those of you kind of in the front, don't look backwards. You're going to be the awkward person looking backwards. So we're going to take 2 minutes. So get your cameras out, and officers, please smile and look forward. Last couple seconds. Oh, geesh. Kelly's messing with all of us. My goodness. All right, officers, do me a favor. Just look straight forward for the last one here. Can you turn them on? Just leave them on. That's fine. Man. That's okay. Hang on a second here. All right, officers, while the lights are on, I'm going to try and get a quick picture here. So if you can all look at me real quick. Here we go. All right, on 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right. Before this goes black and we're all stuck in here, one of the things that we love doing that's really important to us is not only letting these officers walk away with that best level of protection, but we also want them to walk away with some of the best community members available, and that is you. And so what we have up here is we actually have 2 magnets up here with each vest. And one magnet has the officer's name on there and their work email. And the other magnet, if you've been talking with Marcy or maybe Kelly or whoever from the department or my team, we have a magnet up here also with your name on there. And if your contact information is not on there, I ask that maybe you might just write that on there. But what we want you guys to do is we want you to swap these magnets. I want you to walk away with an officer's magnet, and I want you to walk away with a community member's magnet. And they're on a magnet for a reason. We all go to the fridge, some more than others, but I want you to put this magnet on your fridge, and I want you to be reminded when you go to your fridge to see that officer. And I'll tell you, I can almost guarantee you they're having a tough day. Please say a prayer for them. Maybe today's the day to reach out to them for coffee or treat them to lunch, or if you're a business or church or whatever, if you guys are doing something fun, invite them. I'll tell you, you want to know something? Officers like to go to fun things too. Just don't call dispatch to get a hold of them, okay? So you have a way to get a hold of them. So please, I want every officer to walk away with one of you guys. I will tell you, you will be blessed getting to know your law enforcement, and you guys will be blessed getting to know your community. So with that, what we're going to do to finish off, I'm going to have all of you come on up here. And I don't know, Marcy, are these alphabetical, the supports? Okay, so there's 2 magnets up here on the left side, or on the right side is the officers, on the left side is yours. If you haven't found your spot yet, we want you to come stand behind these officers for a really cool picture. So if you want to come up, whether you have a magnet or not, we want you to come up here and stand with them and be part of that picture. So please, come on up. We want everybody that's out there to come on up here, adults and kids. Come on up. Come on up, everybody, come on. Yep. Come on up, yep, everybody. We'll even take the Chargers fan in the back row. You can come up and be in it too. Come on up. Please just don't touch the gear yet. Just please come stand with them, and then you guys can look at all of it as much as you want. Come on up. Come stand behind the officers. Yeah, we'll swap the magnets in just a minute. Yep, work your way back behind there. Officers, make room for them. Officers, I know you're nervous. Just let your guard down. These are good people. Yep, keep fighting your way in. Yeah, make your way around back, and we're going to take a picture. All right, if I could get everyone's attention real quick here, I'm going to risk my life and stand on a chair at the city council chambers. I'm sure it's probably not the first time. All right, make your way over there. All right. Oh, you guys look awesome. If I could get all of you to look right at me, please. And on 3, we're going to say donuts. 1, 2, 3. Donuts. It always gets the best smile. I don't know why. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Donuts. Awesome. Nobody move. If anybody would like that picture, come find me. I'd be happy to airdrop it to you or text you. But to close this out, like I said, please make sure you guys swap these magnets. Officers, these vests are for you to take. Please leave the box and the handkerchief in there. Unless you're emotional, you can have the handkerchief. But please take those Bibles. But I have everybody standing like this for a reason. This right here is Shield616. And I had the officers standing in front of you because that's why they're referred to as your hometown heroes, the thin blue line. They're willing to go out there and literally stand between good and evil for your benefit. And to all the officers here, I know that you're really nervous having this many people around you this close. But I had all these people standing behind you, and I want you to remember this moment. I want you to remember all these good people standing here with you. And when you're having that hard day, when you're dealing with that bad call, I want you to be reminded of this moment and be reminded that your community is worth fighting for. That there are good community members out there, and they deserve your protection and your service. And I want you all to know that they see the good work that you do. And you can put that uniform on with pride and with joy and know that you are making a difference in your community, and continue to go out there and do the good work that you're doing and know that your community loves you. And so with that, let me say a quick prayer, and then I'm going to lose all control. Father, we just thank you so much for these officers. We thank you for this opportunity and for the generosity of the community and this crazy bike ride that we did. And we just thank you so much that they can walk out there with a higher level of protection. We just ask that your guardian angels would surround them and protect them and bless them and give them your wisdom, knowledge, and discernment in all these complex calls that they deal with. And we just thank you so much for the opportunity to bless and protect the Cortez Police Department. Lord, to you be the glory. In your name, Jesus Christ, we ask this. Amen. All right, lastly, before you guys come up here, swap magnets, and shake hands, I need everybody to see this. I know the chief isn't here. Assistant Chief, I need you to close your ears. This is really important, okay? We have many stories of this getting people out of speeding tickets. So over here, we have our merchandise table, and we would love to have your support. We did have to raise the sticker price from $3 to $75. I think that's only fair if it's getting out of a ticket. But I can't guarantee anything. It may or may not help you, but we would love to have your support over here. Who knows? It might help you out there. If you don't speed, you can still get one because it's going to send them a message, and I can guarantee that officer is going to smile when he sees that sticker on your car. But we would sure love to have your support over there. There is more food, I believe. Michelle, is there more food, or did you eat it all? Okay, Michelle did not eat it all. There's more over there. Please grab some food, but please, to end this, please make your way around, shake all of their hands, thank them for their service, and thank you for coming out tonight to honor your law enforcement and being part of the Shield616 program. So everybody, let's give everyone a round of applause. Come on around, shake these guys' hands. You guys be safe. We appreciate you coming out. Come on around. Come on around, everybody. Officers, Merry Christmas. You can dive into your stuff now. Go for it.